Hello and welcome everyone to our City of Mesa Planning and Zoning Board public hearing, May 12th, 2021. We'd like to go ahead and get this meeting started. We'll do a virtual, as we still have a few joining us virtually, we'll do a roll call until we're all back and we can be seen present. Chair Astle here, Vice Chair Sarkisian.
Here.
Board Member Boyle.
I'm here.
Board Member Allen, I believe, is attending.
Here.
Thank you.
Here.
Board Member Crockett.
Here.
Also attending virtually. Board Member Villanueva Saucedo.
Here.
Board Member Ayers.
Here.
There we go. Board Member Ayers is present. Looks like all board members present with 3 virtual and the rest attending in person. We're grateful to staff for getting this all set up so we could be here. It's a lot of fun to start more or less moving our way back to seeing each other and being in person. So we appreciate that. As we saw in the initial video, today we have a consent agenda to read, and Vice Chair Sarkisian has offered to do that for us. We have removed from the consent agenda item 3A, which we'll discuss following the consent agenda vote, as well as item 5C. So those have remained. We have 2 cards, comment cards, that we will reference at that time. Vice Chair Sarkisian.
All right, the consent agenda is as follows. Meeting minutes from the April 28th, 2021 study session and regular meeting. Item ZON 19-00832, District 3, within the 1800.
That's
oh,
off
sorry.
consent.
I did the first
That's
thing
okay.
I
That's
not supposed
okay.
to do. Moving on to the preliminary plat, Wood Spring Suites, District 3, ZON 21-00109, within the 300 to 400 blocks of East Baseline Road and within the 1800 to 2000 blocks of South Mesa Drive, located east of Mesa Drive on the north side of Baseline Road, preliminary plat. Staff recommendation is approval with conditions. Recommendation of the Mesa zoning ordinance amending chapters 4, 5, 6, 8, 31, 32, 58, 64, 86, and 87 of Title 11, the zoning ordinance of the Mesa City Code pertaining to community residences and other group residential uses. The amendments include, but are not limited to, repealing in its entirety Section 11-31-14, group home for the handicapped, and replacing it with Section 11-31-14, community residences, removing and modifying and adding definitions to Chapter 86, use types, and Chapter 87 definitions, and modifying various land use charts. Staff recommendation is we recommend to approve adoption to City Council. And amending chapters 31 and 70 of Title 11, the zoning ordinance of the Mesa City Code, modifying correctional transitional housing facility development standards and modifying administrative use permit standards. Staff recommendation is we'll recommend to recommend approval to City Council.
Adoption to City
Adoption
Council.
to City Council.
Okay, so with that read in, do we have any additional comments or anything related to the public regarding these cases that need to be addressed prior to entertaining a motion? Okay. At this point, I think I can entertain a motion regarding our consent agenda as read in.
Motion to approve today's agenda as read into the record. Consent agenda.
Thank you very much. And any second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, please vote, and then I'll have a roll call vote. We'll use the buttons here, those present, and we'll roll call vote those who are not. All in favor, please vote. And Board Member Crockett, could you please read in your vote?
I vote aye.
Board Member Allen.
Aye.
Board Member Ayers.
Aye.
Okay, it looks like the passes unanimously with all board members. Thank you very much. Okay, let's go ahead in order as it's agendized here. Let's go to item 3A and discuss case ZON 19-00832 as continued from our April 28th meeting. We'll go ahead and turn the time over to Staff Planner Cassidy Welch to give us a basic presentation so that we can begin that discussion. That'd be great.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. This is case ZON 19-00832. This is a approximately 20-acre site located north of Main Street and east of Dobson Road. The general plan designation for this site is mixed-use activity, which encourages centers of commercial and residential activity. It's also located within the station area and transit district due to its proximity to the light rail and Sycamore Station light rail stop, as well as within the West Main Street area sub-area plan. The zoning on the site is currently a mixture of form-based code transect zones. As a part of this request, there are no proposed changes to the zoning. Those transect zones were established in 2016 with the original Sycamore Station Smart Growth Community Plan. The request before you today is a modification to that Sycamore Station Smart Growth Community Plan to allow for a mixed-use transit-oriented development. You can see the existing photos of the site, which include the existing commercial center that is located southwest of the proposed site. So the Smart Growth Community Plan allows for form-based code transect zoning outside of the traditional downtown area. As a part of the Smart Growth Community Plan, you are required to provide pedestrian sheds, identify those transect zones, identify a thoroughfare network, and identify locations and types of civic spaces. As a part of that request, it does include a preliminary development plan with final development plans to be approved through a zoning clearing process. Here you can see the proposed modifications to the preliminary development plan, which include modifications to the parcel configurations for parcels D1 and A1 and 2, as well as modifications to parking standards, the pedestrian and vehicular thoroughfares, and modifications to the building form standards established from the form-based code. The city did conduct a school analysis in conjunction with the Mesa Schools District. This is based off of an anticipated 450 apartments and 75 townhomes with the exact units to be determined as a part of the final development plan zoning clearance. The Mesa Public Schools District identified that all schools within the area have capacity to serve the anticipated students. The applicant did conduct a citizen participation process, which included an additional meeting on May 4th with the Mesa Grande Community Association based off of recommendations from the previous planning and zoning hearing. In summary, staff finds that the proposed modifications comply with the 2040 Mesa General Plan. It complies with the West Main Street sub-area plan and meets the criteria for smart growth community plans as outlined in the zoning ordinance, and we are recommending approval with conditions.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate the presentation. I believe we most likely have available to us the applicant if there's anything that needs to be addressed, and we also have a comment card that we would like to enter into the record. I think I'll turn the time over to Leslie. I believe you'll be helping us with that.
Great. This comment card came from Stephanie Wright and the Mesa Grande Community Alliance Steering Committee. It states, as concerned residents of West Mesa and members of the Mesa Grande Community Alliance, we wish to express our concern about the current state of the Sycamore Station project and withdraw our previous support of the development that was originally presented to us and mutually agreed upon. When Mr. Calfee first met with our neighborhood group seeking our endorsement of the project a few years ago, there were several components that were included that we wholeheartedly endorsed that are no longer a part of the plan. Along Sycamore Street, north of Main Street, just south of the school, was a townhouse project that was to go in the ground before the apartments along Main. These 88 townhomes were to be high-quality for-sale product that would be built prior to the construction of the apartments, as we were all of the opinion that building them first would be a boost to the sales, add cachet to the apartments, and provide a measure of balance and stability to an otherwise struggling elementary school. Without the townhouses and the assisted living component, and realizing that a portion of the Main Street apartment land is no longer available to build on, the project no longer has our support. Now, all that is left to be built is 400 apartment units on 2 different sites with 2 different developers and without the continuity or master planning that Mr. Calpe previously provided. The property that is left over will merely be infill. We have enjoyed working with Neil and his counsel, Lindsay Shuby, and others on their team. They have been gracious and supportive of our work in West Mesa, but we are not satisfied with the current proposal and therefore oppose it. Mesa City Code to allow for major amendment application, or if reviewed under Title 11, Chapter 11-3B, the application is missing required elements that must be submitted in advance of scheduling a hearing. On behalf of the Mesa Grande Community Alliance Steering Committee, Stephanie Wright, Tanya Collins, Dee Montag, Tyler Montag, Derek Brosman, H. Michael Wright, Delight Clark, Erica Berry, Ann Price, and Lynn Burnham.
Okay, thank you very much for reading that in. That's very helpful and well thought through. Do we have the applicant available to address the comment today?
Chair, I don't know if you can hear me. I am on Zoom. I put my camera on. I don't know whether that's permitted or not, again, this virtual world.
We can't see you, but we can hear you clearly, and we'd love to have some discussion. If you want to kind of read your name and address, and we can have your comment.
Absolutely. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission, Lindsay Shuby with the law firm of Gamage and Burnham, 40 North Central in Phoenix, Arizona, 85004, here on behalf of the applicant. And I have a presentation, and I see that if it's Cassidy pulling it up, thank you, or whomever pulling it up. And I'll make it really brief, Chair, because it's not a really complicated case that's in front of you today. And I would like to, thank Leslie for reading the comments from Stephanie and Mesa Grande into the record first. I think that helps me kind of frame my comments. And I also would like to thank Stephanie and the group. You guys continued us 2 weeks ago, and the group Mesa Grande pulled themselves together, and we met a week ago today. So they have also been gracious and made time for us to get together last Wednesday in a short time frame. We had a great meeting and shared thoughts respectfully. And we don't agree on everything, but definitely respectfully. And I appreciate them making the time to see us in between this 2 week turnaround that we had. So here's our presentation. Sycamore Station. Why are we here? Well, the original Smart Growth Community Plan was approved in 2016. Next slide, please. Since then, perfect. At all times, we did have 3 separate and distinct parcels. As you can see, and as Cassidy did a great job, and I'm going to try not to reiterate too much of what she said, but it's approximately 20 acres, L-shaped, wrapping around the hard corner of Dobson and Main. 3 different assessors' parcels make up our Sycamore Station master plan. The first along Main Street is now controlled by Pride Ventures. The second, nearest the existing single-family residence towards the northeast, is actually owned by the Chapman family, but controlled for the next 47 years by this, and I may have the years wrong, but Jeff McVeigh would know best, but controlled for a long time by the city of Mesa. And the third parcel is Mira Vista Holdings, used to control, but has been transferred to Dobson Properties. It is owned by Dobson Properties LLC, which is a Mira Vista entity, and is being sold right now. Next slide, please. So again, I think many of you were on the commission at the time. The Smart Growth Community Plan was approved in 2016. The existing zoning on the site was C2 and C3. And through this Smart Growth Community Plan, we established T4 and T5 transect zoning. This allows for a mix of uses, including multi-residence and commercial. So why are we here? We're not making any substantive changes. These are cleanup items. The changes that are made to this community plan are development standards so that we can build what we want to build out there because my client did not get control of the property that is controlled by the city of Mesa. So we have no changes to the transect zones, no changes to the permitted uses, and no changes to development parcels B and C, which are the parcels closest to the neighborhood. Next slide, please. As you can see, just picture says 1,000 words. These are the two, those were the proposed transect zones in 2000 and approved in 2016. On your right, on your left, and on your right is what is proposed. Again, the zoning, the uses have not changed. Next slide, please. So what has changed? And Cassidy spoke through it. Again, this is a comparison. On your left is the conceptual land use plan that was attached to the 2016 Smart Growth Community Plan. And on your right is what is in front of you today. Again, B and C, I think, are the parcels that are most affected, or what the neighborhood is most affected by. There are no changes to those in terms of use or standards. Parcel A is where we made a lot of changes. Again, the form, the density all stays about the same. We just had to change the parcels and the development standards to allow for, again, a cohesive development to all come to be as part of Sycamore Station. Next slide, please. So yeah, we were here 2 weeks ago with a staff recommendation of approval. You guys continued us, and rightfully so, in order to meet with the Mesa Grande group. Again, compliments to them for gathering in short order and for a productive conversation. I think their concerns and comments have to do with things that are not before you today. They have to do with for rent versus for sale product. I just took you through the site plans, albeit quickly. I do come from the Paul Gilbert School of Law, but I try to use less words than he does. And I tell him that. The townhomes are still permitted in the northeast corner of our site. That building form has not changed. We still have a cohesive master plan, and we 100% commit to you and commit to our friends at Mesa Grande to continue to work with them and to continue to support the school in all ways. So, as far as a land use perspective here, our land uses have not changed. We're just changing the development standards in order to get some of this development out of the ground. So look forward to any questions or comments, Chair or Commissioners. But that was my brief overview to get us all on the same page. But thank you again to the Mesa Grande group. They were very gracious in hosting us last week.
Thank you very much for the brief presentation. That's helpful. Let's, at this point, I think hearing from the public and what we read in and the applicant, let's go ahead and discuss this amongst the board. If we have comments or questions for the applicant and or just items to discuss together, please, let's do that now. Any comments from anybody or anyone virtual that we have with us?
Chair?
Please.
Based on what we heard last time as well as this time, and we heard the neighbors' concerns, and I agree they were very well thought out, but I don't think some of the concerns have really are anything within our purview of what's being changed here. In these, they're just trying to get the project up and going. The land use hasn't changed. It's the design standards just has to do with the form and the form of the site, and I don't think that there's anything other than I think they meet with their criteria for their changes. So,
Thank you. Yeah. Other comments, Board Member Boyle?
I guess I would wonder if it's not our purview, whose purview is it? When developer comes in, says one thing, things change over the course of the thing, now it's different, the neighborhood feels slighted. Whose purview is this if it's not ours? Is this something that, it's up for city council to do? Or is it something the design review should do? Or is it just tough luck neighborhoods? Developers pretty much have the advantage. They can kind of do whatever they want. They can pitch a project one way, they can change it in the middle of it, and that's just the way development happens around here. I guess that's the larger question that I've been pondering in the last couple of weeks.
my just response on that is the issue. The big issue I hear is the difference between for sale and for rent, which is not a zoning issue at all. And you can't decide that regardless, even if on a regular subdivision. So I don't think that's anything for us or the city to determine. And as far as the form of the building, it's not unlike any of the preliminary plats when they come in for amendments. They're still meeting the code that they came in with, the plan, the zoning ordinance, all the design requirements of the city. So those processes are always in place, and there's always the ability to do amendments to them. But the uses are not changing from what was originally permitted. And I think, if there had been different stipulations or different things within the original plan which was approved, maybe there might have been some leeway for us to change some things in there or say it's not meeting what was originally intended. But I think on the whole, it looks like the form of the building has changed. The uses are the same. We can't dictate legally who rents and who buys. That's not for us or even council to determine. And so that's why I feel, there might be some instances in other projects that we can say something, but nothing ever about for sale or for rent. So that's why I feel like at this junction, and it comes across sometimes on other projects, where we don't have the ability to determine certain things. And I know we've seen things like that where people were upset about a McDonald's versus a Sonic, and it's the same thing, it's private property rights, that we can't really get into some of that issue, so.
So then would there be sort of a, hey, neighborhoods, be cautious when people come and present something to you? They might be making a bunch of promises that they're not going to keep later on, and that's something that you just need to be aware of. It happens quite often. We've seen it with this. We saw it with the Bass Pro building that's going up over by there too, that neighborhoods may, or developers may say one thing, but what citizens can actually get out of it and what citizen groups, like when you have neighborhood meetings, what can they actually change, what can they not change? What I find a lot is there's a lot of misunderstanding as to what a citizen can actually get changed. And they can be like, oh, well, let's get together and we'll have a win-win, but the win-win is typically the developer wins, and that's the way it's set up. But maybe there just needs to be better education to all the neighborhood groups. Maybe there's some addendum that can be mailed out when the mailers go out to say, typically you have about this much leeway with an adjustment of that, just so that we don't end up with a bunch of angry citizens thinking that the process is one way and then finding out that it's not.
I think the process plays out exactly the way it's supposed to be. Just because a neighborhood meeting takes place doesn't mean that that's a contractual obligation. It's an opportunity for neighbors to give voice to their concerns, but ultimately the landowner, as long as they're abiding with the zoning that is there, that is their property to do what they will. Again, I'm very uncomfortable with us overseeing our purview. If there's some sort of agreement between a neighborhood group and a property owner, neighborhood group and a developer, then that needs to be a private contractual obligation. That is not within this board's purview. Our purview is whether the plan submitted match the zoning. Again, I always encourage neighborhood participation. I think we have seen some products that the feel, the look, the layout has changed because of neighborhood input. But again, that is not a contractual obligation. Meetings are simply discussions. I'm okay with the case as presented.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I'm comfortable with what's in front of us today and the adjustments that have been made. Ultimately, to me, I want to just thank the applicant. I know that it's not always easy to work with neighbors, and we don't always come to an exact agreement, but I do appreciate the willingness to spend some time and meet again and discuss through the differences and hopefully get some comfort in what's going on. And I don't see that anyone's being lied to here or anything's being misrepresented. So I am comfortable with the adjustments as well, and I'm looking forward to the project. Do we have any other comments by board members participating virtually today?
If I could jump in, I have some reservations. I was hoping that the neighborhood would be in support of this project. I do understand that the legality of our purview and what we can and can't do, but I really don't like the idea of something being portrayed that it's going to be one thing and then you find out it's going to be something different. So I have a little bit of a concern about that, just because neighbors, they believe and they trust the city. And when the process changes, I totally understand that. But that set aside, there's not really a reason that I can't support this project. I just wish it would have had a different outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Board Member Allen. Appreciate your comments. Anything else, since I can't see very well, Board Member Crockett or Board Member Ayers, that you would like to address?
Nothing from Board Member Crockett. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Ayers, any?
Good as well.
Okay. It seems like.
Chair, I know you closed this. Apologies. This is Lindsay Shuby again. I just, for your public record, I misspoke when I said that Mira Vista, I'm here on behalf of Mira Vista. I misspoke when I said they still controlled the Dobson piece. They do not. That's a different group, but we are, as the master developer, still involved to finish up the smart growth community plan. So I just wanted to clear up the public record. Apologies.
Thank you for the clarification. I believe Jeff McVeigh was hoping to make a comment, it looks like.
Chair, members of the board, Jeff McVeigh. I'm the manager of downtown transformation with the city of Mesa. I don't know why, given my title, why I've been involved with this for the last 5 years, but I've been involved from the beginning of this project and negotiating development agreements when this project was going to include the land that's currently the park and ride and transit station that was going to be included in the project. And I want to make sure to clearly state that the project has not changed. The plans have not changed. The parcel on Main Street was always going to be multifamily development. The parcel on Dobson was always going to be multifamily development. Whether it's assisted living or whether it's rental apartments, it's still a multi-residence development. And then the piece in between was always going to be townhomes. The plan continues to have that. The zoning is in place today, and the zoning will remain in place tomorrow, so that when the project does expand, when the underlying property owner under the park and ride sees fit to not believe that their land is worth $10 million, townhomes will be developed because that's what the zoning says today. So short of that property never becoming something else, I think that we are seeing the same plan. We are seeing a different configuration, but I have 5 years worth of history here that shows that we are a consistent plan. I'm happy to answer any questions about the history if you have them too.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, with everything heard today, I believe I can entertain a motion regarding this case.
I'll make a motion,
Thank you. Board Member
since I
Chapter.
started reading it the first time. I move to approve ZON 19-00832, District 3, within the 1800 block of West Main Street and within the 100 block of North Dobson Road and within the 0 to 200 blocks of North Sycamore, located east of Dobson Road and north of Main Street. Modification to the Sycamore Station Smart Growth Community Plan. This request will allow for a mixed-use, transit-oriented development. Staff recommendation is approval of conditions, so I move to approve as read.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Great.
This is Ayers, but
Thank you. I believe Board Member Villanueva Salcedo just jumped in front of you, so we'll go second. Let's go ahead and vote using our buttons, and I'll roll call those who are virtual, please. Okay, Board Member Crockett, your vote.
I vote aye.
Board Member Allen. If you voted, that was on mute.
Sorry, I had it on mute. Sorry.
That's
Aye.
Aye, okay. Board Member Ayers.
aye.
Okay, it looks like the case is passed with one nay vote from Board Member Boyle. And we'll move forward with that vote. Thank you very much for the discussion and all the comments today. Very helpful, and I appreciate the applicant and the neighbors for the discussions that were had over the last 2 weeks to work through the issues and the comments and the concerns. Okay, we have one more item on the agenda today to discuss during this public hearing, and that is item 5C. We were able to discuss the medical marijuana and marijuana facilities changes in our study session. I'll go ahead and read this case into the record, and I believe we'll have a comment card and a person present, virtually present to speak. This is item 5C, and this is ZN 21064, amending Chapter 17, 31, 86, 87, and Title 11, the zoning ordinance of the Mesa City Code pertaining to marijuana, The amendments include, but are not limited to, repealing in its entirety Section 11-31-34, medical marijuana facilities, and replacing it with Section 11-31-34, marijuana facilities, removing, modifying, and adding definitions to Chapter 86, use types, and Chapter 87, definitions, and modifying various land use charts. I just wanted to read that in specifically as that was the item discussed today. I believe we have a comment card by, I think it's Connor Councilman, if that sounds correct. We'd like to invite them to please read their name into the record, maybe state their name and address, and we'd love to hear your concerns, maybe 3 minutes or so.
Perfect. Thank you so much. My name is Connor Councilman. Address is 1225 West Main Street, number 101-272. I am speaking on behalf of an established Mesa Dispensary. So Mesa's zoning ordinance for dispensaries was written back in 2012 when the medical marijuana program had only 40,000 patients. Today, dispensaries are using the same amount of space to serve nearly 8 times as many patients, plus adult use customers. Proposition 207 has transitioned dispensaries from being tucked away medical facilities into mainstream, high volume retail operations. Arizona dispensaries now rival In-N-Out, Chick-fil-A, and Dutch Bros in terms of customer volume. Based on our research, surrounding cities are generally increasing square footage to accommodate this increase in customer volume. As mentioned in the last study session, most dispensaries have lines going, quote, out the door. Why is it acceptable to make people wait outside? Why is Mesa punishing businesses, patients, and consenting adults by making them wait in 120-degree desert heat? By not giving dispensary space to conduct recreational transactions, Mesa's medical patients are the ones who will ultimately suffer. Further, Mesa could increase its tax revenue by not limiting the square footage of dispensaries. Tax revenue is down due to COVID, and Mesa needs this revenue. For example, dispensaries in Tempe can be 4 times larger, 10,000 square feet. Dispensaries within Mesa city limits that are on a county island, one of which is not currently shown in the map in the presentation before you today, have no square footage limitations. Scottsdale has no square footage limitations. Peoria, Surprise, Casa Grande all have no limits on dispensary square footage. Mesa shoppers will take their business to these locations because of shorter lines, extended hours, and simply not having to wait in the heat. When customers take their business to other jurisdictions, Mesa does not make tax revenue on these sales. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Councilman, thank you very much for the presentation and your comments. As you heard in our study session, there were a few discussing this matter as well, and we also heard from our planning director as to council direction on this. Do we have any other staff comments? I know we have a few also on our minds about this, but anything as it relates to a response just for the record today as to why it's intended that we're leaving it at the 2,500 feet and the future of maybe plans on reevaluating this, things like that maybe that we could discuss for Mr. Councilman?
Board members, because recreational marijuana has just been introduced into the state of Colorado, sorry, I was working, I literally was working on this in Colorado and then it followed me here. So I always say I'm experienced with basically dealing with marijuana regulations. So the discussion with City Council, which before this ordinance had also done revisions to the police ordinance, is because we just introduced recreational marijuana in Arizona. We continue to assess and evaluate the locations of where they are going to go. Right now, they are allowed in 2 zoning districts in the city. And in addition, we have to look at these performance standards because it's been introduced into 120-degree weather that is not close to anywhere in the state. When you compare Florida, you compare Colorado, Seattle, they are all different climates. So as much as we continue to study the performance standards that really ensure public health and safety to operate this, and also basically allowing and giving access to the users, because one of the discussions at City Council is City Council still wants to make sure that the users have access to that. So there was no indication from City Council to restrict access to basically getting the recreational marijuana, but the council wants us to at least move forward as soon as possible to really make it allowable in those zoning locations so the users can have access to it instead of delaying to continue to evaluate and all that. The council doesn't want to wait. So that's why we're giving an entry. But as time goes on and we basically assess and evaluate that, then they will revisit whether to expand or to put things in place that will give access, but also ensures that public health safety of those neighborhoods and surroundings are also taken care of.
Okay. I appreciate that. I believe board members, at this point, maybe let's deliberate a little regarding what's in front of us. And do we have comment, Board Member Sarkisian?
Chair, I just wanted to reiterate on the record my comment earlier in the study session regarding that I fully do support expanding this, the square footage. I believe that we should move forward with this text amendment at this time and get it going. But I think the sooner the better to bring that before us again for an expansion, at least to come in compliance closer up to some of the other surrounding communities, so that we can, as I mentioned, I have seen some of these where they're standing outside, not loitering, they're actually just standing outside in line. And then also the fact that I feel like, especially when you take existing buildings and you have to subdivide it and put up walls and make half of the space unusable, I think it's really underutilizing existing buildings. So instead of having, then you have people that could need to build another spot or different, it's just all kinds of drama, I think, for something that we've seen has a pretty decent record, and it's a business, and more people are using it, especially now with recreational now being in the medical marijuana facilities. You're gonna need more space and to be able to serve more people. So just wanted to relay that so that council hears that, and thank you, Nana.
Chair, board members, one thing I want to add to it also, right now our separation distance is from the building to the other location, and those are all the things that we also need to evaluate, because if you expand, that basically you expand into the separation distance and some of the existing uses will become non-conforming, or they are likely to become non-conforming. So those are all the assessment and evaluations that we need to continue to do. But the critical part here is council did not want, there is a lot of assessment that needs to go in, but they want to make sure that at least we give the avenue an opportunity for people to get access to it whilst we continue to evaluate what needs to be done in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
I would just encourage a quick evaluation. It's a legal, legitimate business. I'm not sure what depth of analysis we go into for other legal, legitimate businesses in our community. I understand that there's spacing requirements, but I think this should be accelerated. It is a legal business, whether we like it or not. If other community standards are allowing it, then surely we must be able to find something here in Mesa. I still will be approving it today, but I hope that there's some way to speed up that analysis.
Okay, any other comments or concerns from other board members that may not be participating in person? Okay. All right, well, with that, I believe if there are no other items to discuss regarding this item on our agenda, I can entertain a motion. At least the basic items read.
Motion to approve item 5A, amending chapters 4, 5.
5C, excuse me.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Motion to approve 5C, amending chapter 7, 31, 86, and 87 of Title 11, the zoning ordinance of the Mesa City Code pertaining to marijuana. Amendments include, but are not limited to, repealing in its entirety section 1131-34, medical marijuana facilities, and replacing it with section 1131-34, marijuana facilities, removing, modifying, adding definitions to chapter 86, uses and types, chapter 87. Motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote. All right, and Board Member Crockett, your vote?
Aye.
Board Member Allen, your vote, please.
Aye. Aye.
Board Member Ayers, your vote?
Aye.
Great. It looks like this passes unanimously as written, as a recommendation for adoption. I do agree. I think there's some things to be worked out, at least logistically, but I also sense that staff is aware, and that's something that council is also evaluating. Very helpful to have public get involved. So, Mr. Councilman, thank you very much for your time today and your presentation, and it was helpful. Okay. With nothing else, staff, anything you would like to address prior to adjournment today?
Chair, board members, we did our budget presentation, and for those of you who also watched the mayor's state of the city a couple of weeks ago, he showed and showcased all the major developments that are going on. And so we did receive positive feedback from the council of all the work that we're doing and basically everyone being busy. But they wanted to extend special gratitude to the Planning and Zoning Board for the past 2 years. You've moved to 2 hearings a month, and so the successes of getting projects through, you guys have been a major contributor to that. So there were a few of the council members that really said that. So those of you who watched the council meeting, I'm sure you saw that shout out from especially Vice Mayor Dav. So I just want to say, just reiterate that comment that you guys are doing a great job and helping us to move projects forward. So thank you.
Yeah, much appreciated. Thanks for relaying that. That's great to hear. I think we're here and enjoying ourselves working with the city of Mesa. So great to be here. Okay, at this point, I think I can entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
Do we have a second? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, I'm guessing that's enough for staff to adjourn our meeting, so we'll go. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next time.